The rain hammered against the windows of our small cottage in Cotswolds, mimicking the storm raging inside me. For 20 years our lives, Genevieve's and mine, had been as intertwined as the ivy climbing the stone walls outside. We met at Oxford, young, idealistic, and brimming with dreams. She, with her fiery red hair and a laugh that could light up a room, and I, Barnaby, the quiet, unassuming IT specialist, content to watch her shine. Our life in Cotswolds was simple but fulfilling. I worked remotely, managing servers and troubleshooting network issues, while Genevieve poured her heart into her pottery, creating beautiful, rustic pieces that sold at local markets and galleries. We had no children, a conscious decision we made early on, wanting to focus on our careers and each other. Or so I thought. The first crack appeared subtly, almost imperceptibly. Genevieve started spending more time in her studio, longer hours, claiming she was working on a large commission. I was happy for her success, proud of her dedication. But then came the late nights, the hushed phone calls she'd take outside, the way she'd flinch when I touched her. I tried to brush it off, attributing it to stress, to the pressures of her growing business. But a nagging unease settled in my stomach, a cold dread that refused to dissipate. One Tuesday, I decided to surprise Genevieve with lunch. I packed a basket with her favorite sandwiches, a bottle of elderflower cordial, and a slice of Victoria sponge cake. The studio was a converted barn at the edge of our property, a space filled with the earthy scent of clay and the whirring of the pottery wheel. As I approached, I heard voices, Genevieve's and another, deeper, male voice. I paused outside the door, my hand hovering over the latch. "I can't keep doing this, Alistair," Genevieve said, her voice laced with a nervous energy I hadn't heard in years. "Barnaby suspects something. He's been different lately, Alistair." "Who the hell was Alistair? He won't suspect anything if you don't give him a reason to," the male voice, Alistair, replied, his tone smooth and confident. "Besides, darling, we're good together, really good. I give you something he never could." My heart hammered against my ribs, each beat a painful reminder of the trust I had placed in this woman, the woman I had loved for 2 decades. I pushed the door open, the scene inside searing itself into my memory. Genevieve stood by the pottery wheel, her face flushed, her eyes wide with panic. Alistair, a man I had never seen before, stood behind her, his hand resting possessively on her waist. He was tall, handsome, with a neatly trimmed beard and eyes that oozed arrogance. He looked like he had just stepped out of a magazine, a stark contrast to my own unassuming appearance. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me, a sickening mix of betrayal and disbelief. "Barnaby, what are you doing here?" Genevieve stammered, her voice trembling. "I brought you lunch," I said, my voice flat, devoid of emotion. I held up the picnic basket, the contents suddenly feeling like a cruel mockery. "But I see you're already being well fed." Alistair smirked, stepping forward, his eyes glinting with a predatory gleam. "Look, mate, I don't know who you are, but you need to leave. Genevieve and I are busy, I repeated, my voice rising. Busy betraying me. Busy destroying 20 years of my life. Barnaby, please, let's talk about this," Genevieve pleaded, her eyes filled with tears. "It's not what you think, not what I think," I laughed, a hollow, bitter sound. "I walked in on you two practically in each other's arms." "What am I supposed to think? It just happened," she said weakly. "I didn't mean for it to go this far, it just happened," I repeated, incredulous. "An affair of this magnitude just happened. I don't think so, Genevieve. You made a choice. And you chose him." I turned to Alistair, my fists clenching. "Who are you?" I demanded. "I'm Alistair, a friend," he said, his voice dripping with condescension. "A very close friend. Get out," I said, my voice low and dangerous. "Get out of my house." "Get out of my life." Alistair hesitated, glancing at Genevieve. She nodded, her face pale and drawn. He shrugged, a dismissive gesture that sent a fresh wave of fury through me. "Fine," he said. "But this isn't over." He walked past me, bumping my shoulder deliberately. I watched him go, my hands trembling with rage. When he was gone, I turned back to Genevieve, my heart aching with a pain I had never known. "How could you?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "How could you do this to me?" She burst into tears, collapsing onto a stool. "I'm so sorry, Barnaby," she sobbed. "I never meant to hurt you, but you did," I said, my voice flat. "You shattered everything I thought we had." I couldn't bear to look at her any longer. I turned and walked out of the studio, leaving the picnic basket behind. The rain was still falling, washing away the last vestiges of the idyllic life I had once known. That night, I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned in our bed, the image of Genevieve and Alistair burned into my mind. I got up and went downstairs, pouring myself a glass of whiskey. As I sat in the living room, staring into the fire, I realized that my life had irrevocably changed. The woman I had loved, the woman I had trusted, had betrayed me in the most profound way possible. I was alone, adrift in a sea of pain and confusion. The next morning, Genevieve tried to talk to me to explain, but I couldn't listen. Every word she spoke felt like a lie, a manipulation designed to ease her own guilt. I told her I wanted a divorce. She begged me to reconsider, promising to end the affair, to do anything to save our marriage, but it was too late. The trust was gone, shattered beyond repair. I spent the next few weeks in a daze, going through the motions of daily life. I continued to work, but my heart wasn't in it. I ate little, slept less. The cottage, once a haven of warmth and love, now felt like a prison, a constant reminder of my pain. My friend Thuron, a gruff but loyal mechanic I had known since school, noticed my distress. He came to visit, bringing with him a bottle of single malt whiskey and a listening ear. I poured out my heart to him, telling him everything that had happened. Thuron listened patiently, offering words of comfort and support. When I was finished, he said, "Barnaby, you can't let this woman destroy you. You're a good man, you deserve better." His words resonated with me. I knew he was right. I couldn't let Genevieve's betrayal define me. I had to find a way to move on, to rebuild my life. But the thought of simply walking away, of letting her and Alistair get away with their deception, filled me with a burning anger. I needed justice, some form of retribution. That's when I decided on my plan. It wasn't about revenge, not really. It was about reclaiming my dignity, about showing Genevieve and Alistair that their actions had consequences. I started by gathering evidence. I hired a private investigator, a discreet and efficient woman named Bronte, to track Genevieve and Alistair. It didn't take long for Bronte to uncover the full extent of their affair. They had been seeing each other for months, meeting in secret hotels, exchanging passionate messages. Bronte also discovered that Alistair was married himself to a woman named Seren, a successful barrister living in London. Armed with this information, I contacted Seren. I met her at a coffee shop in London, a nervous anticipation churning in my stomach. Seren was a striking woman, intelligent and articulate. I laid out the evidence before her, the photographs, the messages, the dates and times of their secret rendezvous. As she read through the documents, her face grew pale with shock and anger. "I can't believe this," she said, her voice trembling. "Alistair always seemed so devoted, so loving." "I thought the same about Genevieve," I said, offering her a sympathetic smile. "It seems we were both wrong. Seren and I decided to work together. We agreed that Alistair and Genevieve deserved to face the consequences of their actions. Seren, being a lawyer, knew exactly how to proceed. She filed for divorce, citing Alistair's adultery as the reason. She also threatened to expose his affair to his colleagues and clients, potentially ruining his career. I, on the other hand, focused on Genevieve. I contacted her business partners, informing them of her infidelity and questioning her trustworthiness. I also shared the evidence with the local art galleries that sold her pottery, suggesting that they might want to reconsider their association with her. The impact was swift and devastating. Genevieve's business began to crumble. Her commissions were canceled, her pottery was removed from the galleries, and her reputation was tarnished beyond repair. I knew it was a ruthless move, but I felt justified in my actions. Genevieve had destroyed my life, and I was simply holding her accountable for her choices. I wasn't trying to ruin her, but I wanted her to understand the pain she had inflicted on me. The divorce was finalized a few months later. I received a fair settlement, but money was the last thing on my mind. I sold the cottage in Cotswolds, unable to bear the memories it held. I decided to move to Edinburgh, a city I had always admired, a place where I could start fresh, away from the shadows of my past. Before I left, I received a phone call from Genevieve. Her voice was weak and desperate. She had lost everything: her business, her reputation, her lover. Alistair had left her, returning to his wife after Seren had threatened to expose him. Genevieve was alone, penniless, and filled with regret. "Barnaby, I'm so sorry," she sobbed. "I know I can never make amends for what I did, but I want you to know that I regret it every single day." I listened in silence, my heart strangely unmoved. I had expected to feel a sense of satisfaction, of triumph. But all I felt was a profound sadness, a deep sense of loss. Genevieve's suffering didn't bring me joy. It only reminded me of the love we had once shared, the life we had once built together. "I hope you find peace, Genevieve," I said, my voice soft. "But I can't forgive you. What you did was unforgivable." I hung up the phone, severing the last tie that bound us together. I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath. It was over. The pain, the anger, the betrayal, it was all in the past. In Edinburgh, I found a small apartment overlooking the Firth of Forth. I started a new job, working as a freelance IT consultant. I made new friends, explored the city, and slowly began to heal. It wasn't easy. The scars of Genevieve's betrayal remained, a constant reminder of my vulnerability, but I refused to let them define me. I focused on the present, on building a future for myself, a future that was free from the shadows of the past. One evening, as I was walking along the Royal Mile, I saw a familiar face. It was Seren, Alistair's ex-wife. She was standing outside a pub talking to a group of friends. I hesitated for a moment, unsure whether to approach her. But then I remembered the shared experience that had brought us together, the pain and betrayal we had both endured. I walked over to her, offering her a tentative smile. "Seren, isn't it?" I said. "Barnaby, we met in London." Her face lit up with recognition. "Barnaby, what a surprise. What are you doing in Edinburgh?" "I moved here," I said. "I needed a fresh start." "I understand," she said, her eyes filled with empathy. So did I. We talked for a long time that evening, sharing our stories of heartbreak and healing. We discovered that we had a lot in common, a shared sense of humor, a love of literature, and a desire to find happiness again. As the evening drew to a close, I felt a spark of hope, a glimmer of possibility. "Would you like to have dinner with me sometime?" I asked, my heart pounding in my chest. Seren smiled, her eyes sparkling. "I'd love to, Barnaby," she said. "I'd really love to." As I walked home that night, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't felt in years. The pain of Genevieve's betrayal was still there, but it no longer consumed me. I had survived. I had rebuilt my life. And now perhaps I was ready to love again. The storm had passed and the sun was finally beginning to shine through the clouds. Years later, I received a letter from Genevieve. She was living in a small village in France, working as a cleaning lady. She was alone and unhappy. She wrote to me to ask for forgiveness one last time. I didn't reply. Some wounds, I realized, never truly heal. But you can learn to live with the scars, to move on, to find happiness again, even after the most devastating betrayal. My story is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, the ability to overcome adversity, and the power of hope. It's a story of betrayal, heartbreak, and ultimately, redemption. It's a story that proves that even in the darkest of times, there is always light to be found.